First of all, I have to thank you all for being here today, for the opportunity for me to talk to you about issues in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I thank ECR for inviting me. Today it was more than helpful talk to MEPs and members of various states governments about Bosnia and Herzegovina and issues in Bosnia and Herzegovina, because Bosnia and Herzegovina currently is slightly out of focus of EU policy obviously because of the war in Ukraine, but also Bosnia and Herzegovina is weaponized and misused by, especially by Russia interests to take the situation of out of focusness and to fulfill some how do you say, Eastern interests. So I will slightly respond to other panels before, because I couldn't have the opportunity to relate and to discuss with other panelists. So I will present myself responding to them. Why? Because even today in this summit, Western Balkans Summit, we saw that European Union do not have coherent and consistent policy towards Western Balkans, and don't have especially coherent policy towards Bosnia and Herzegovina, where I'm coming from. And it can be a huge issue if we see what happened before in history. I saw previously one professor talking about Open Balkan Initiative and how states of Western Balkans should enter together, and must be some not personal approach to one state, but together. And that reminds me of the situation in the beginning of 90s, where in April of 1991, there was a visit from Jacques Delors. He was president of European Economic Community, and I think Prime Minister of Luxembourg, Jacques Sanders, to Belgrade with the proposal to save Yugoslavia with $1 billion, and after saving Yugoslavia, Yugoslavia will enter in European Union instantly. And in June, James Baker came to Belgrade with the same proposal. James Baker was Secretary of State Department in United States, with the same proposition, saying that interest of EU, EEZ over there, and United States is preserving Yugoslavia. And that was, his visit was in May, and in July, Yugoslav army invaded Slovenia. And Yugoslav army and Yugoslav Belgrade policy interpreted that as a green light to aggression. And we all know what happened later. And how big issue can it be, especially Republic of Croatia knew, because there was not only aggression, but there was also embargo of importing arms. Relating today in the situation of Ukraine, imagine if there was an embargo on importing arms in Ukraine after Russian aggression. And why this approach is wrong? Because as a MEP from Hungary in the previous panel says, approaching Western Balkans from EU cannot be and must not be approached like a teacher-pupil relationship. We live in our countries with our culture, political, historic heritage, and must be respected. And we all know it, especially in Bosnia and Herzegovina, where, as I told, EU not only don't have coherent approach, but also want to make of Bosnia and Herzegovina mini Yugoslavia. But not in Yugoslavia there was Belgrade, in Bosnia and Herzegovina there was Sarajevo. in Yugoslavia, there was a Serbian policy as a dominant. In Bosnia-Herzegovina, there is a Bosniak policy as a predominant. And why that is an issue? Especially because Bosnia-Herzegovina is not a sovereign state. We have sovereignty only on the paper. We have, yes, we have governments, we have parliaments, we have all kind of judiciary levels, but the real power has Office of High Representative. Today it's Christian Schmidt. And Office of High Representative, his thoughts are, has more legal value than Constitution of Bosnia-Herzegovina. Imagine on the 2nd of October, there was elections. On the election night in the 7 o'clock p.m., he imposed changing election law and the Constitution of Federation of Bosnia-Herzegovina. And now, imagine that it's a World Cup today in Qatar. Imagine that after the game, somebody decide to change the rules of the game. Imagine that. That's the reality of Bosnia-Herzegovina. And Office of High Representative during past 27 or past 22 years had imposed more than 100 amendments to Constitution of Bosnia-Herzegovina, Constitution of Federation of Bosnia-Herzegovina, and electoral law. And none of those imposements was ratified in any levels of parliament. None. But it's a law. And that's the reality what we are living today in Bosnia-Herzegovina. And yes, in the past, last month or 2 months ago, in Brussels, they said that Bosnia-Herzegovina will be candidate if we fulfill, I don't know, 14 conditions. But we will never fulfill those 14 conditions. Why? Because it's impossible for us. Because European Union has wrong approach to Bosnia-Herzegovina, as they have a wrong approach to ex-Yugoslavia. Why? Because they come with a predefined agenda, political agenda. Not every state, every more powerful state in EU come with a predefined agenda and try to adjust Bosnia-Herzegovinian reality to that agenda, not vice versa. Not adjust the agenda because of the reality that we are living over there. Bosnia-Herzegovina is a state where there is 3 constituent people: Serbs, Bosniaks, and Croats. We have 2 entities, Republic of Srpska, Federation of Bosnia-Herzegovina. And all those amendments imposed by Office of High Representative was on the damage of Croatian people in Bosnia-Herzegovina. Why? Because as one MEP said before, Bosnia-Herzegovina should be one state, one nation, and one government. That's wrong. Cannot be like that, because there is 3 constituent people in Bosnia-Herzegovina living, and it agreed in Dayton Agreement, and it's written in Constitution of Bosnia-Herzegovina. Bosnia-Herzegovina, because of that, is now victim of maybe the biggest corruption issues in EU, in Europe, excuse me. And why? Because we have a huge bureaucratic administration apparatus. We have municipality levels, we have 10 canton levels, we have federation and Republika Srpska entity levels, we have state levels and presidency, 5 levels. And we are only living 2.9 or 3 million in Bosnia-Herzegovina. More than 78% of budget spending goes to public administration. Average in European Union is 17. We have 78. So that's the huge field for corruption that we are living in Bosnia-Herzegovina. So I'm concluding, European Union and all more powerful states should change approach towards Bosnia-Herzegovina. change approach, leaving teacher and pupil relationship behind, and start to listen what we who lives life circumstances in Bosnia and Herzegovina have to say, and open debate. What in the previous panel, university professor said, open debate about it, and states from members of EU like Poland, Czechia, Bulgaria have to take bigger role in talking not only about Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also about each country of what is called Western Balkans. Why? Because we have a similar heritage, communist heritage, and has to have bigger role in these debates. So thank you again, and I'm available for any kind of questions if you have to. A little bit like Chris in Bulgaria, I'm in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I'm not an average so-called young person in Bosnia and Herzegovina that decided to leave, and I decided to fight. Just because all Sashka and Peja would say it's the same even in Bosnia and Herzegovina and all non-EU Balkan countries. There are no hopes for young people. Why? I'm talking about Bosnia and Herzegovina because we live Western North Korea, 3 Western North Koreas. In Republic of Srpska, there are Serbian North Korea, in major Bosniak areas, there are Bosniak North Korea, in major Croat areas, Croatian North Korea. If you are not involved in major political parties, it's practically impossible for you to get a job, not only in a public administration, but also in the private administration. And if you get involved in politics, you are not following the mainstream policy made by actual political national elites, you will have much problems. But what is changing now in Bosnia and Herzegovina, because there are a lot of more people like me, crazy people. No, it's crazy because everybody tell me that I'm the crazy one. And we have a lot of followers, we have a lot of members, and you told me about administration in Bosnia and Herzegovina. As I told you, we have, I don't know how many municipalities, 100 and so. They all have mayors and municipality councils. We have 10 cantons. They all 10 have prime ministers, they have their own governments, they have their own agencies, their own institution. Then we have federal level with 2 parliament levels, House of People and House of Representatives. We federal government and federal agency, federal institution. We have state level with 2 levels of government, House of People and the Parliament, with their own government, their own agencies, their own institution, and we have a presidency level, where we have emblematic example what Bosnia and Herzegovina is. For those who doesn't know, the presidency levels is there are 3 members of presidency. 1 elected in Republic of Srpska, he is a Serb, and 2 elected in Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, that should be Bosniak and Croats. And now, knowing that Bosniak are majorities in Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Bosniak can elect either their member of presidency and our members of presidency. And it happened 4 times. Željko Komšić is elected by Bosniak votes and represent the Croats, but his political praxis, for him, the Croats are enemies. So it's against not only civil and political human rights, it's against human rights itself for Croatian people in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And as I told you, Office of High Representative Christian Schmidt imposed changes of electoral law and constitution of Federation Bosnia and Herzegovina, but didn't touch the presidency level. So now we have, at this election, 4th time elected our members of presidency in behalf of cross by Bosniak votes. It's mathematically really easy to prove it. So that's Bosnia and Herzegovina. That's what I was talking about in my introduction session, that European Union must change the approach towards Bosnia and Herzegovina, must accept that there live 3 constituent peoples, Serbs, Bosniak, and Croats. And why there are also examples in the history of European Union about states like Bosnia and Herzegovina. Belgium is one. Belgium was a unitaristic state, has had the pretty same issues like Bosnia and Herzegovina has. But in Belgium case, they did everything to decentralize Belgium. And so Belgium became what the Belgium today is. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, European Union, not only European Union, but also United States, are going au contraire. They are trying to centralize everything to Sarajevo, which means that they are trying to make a little Yugoslavia as it was, Yugoslavia was. And how Yugoslavia ended, Bosnia and Herzegovina will end it. Not in war, but it will implode, because nobody wants to make war in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Nobody will make war, but it will implode. Why? Because of corruption, because of lack of rule of law, and because of lack of opportunities for not only for young people, but whoever is not living according to major political elites. Message to you officials. I have a practical proposal for all Western Balkan countries. Give us candidacy status so a European prosecutor office can enter in all Western Balkan countries and investigate corruption. Or if you don't give us a candidacy status, do something in your institution so European prosecutor office could have a capability to investigate corruption in all Western Balkan countries. Because corruption is the thing, and criminality, organized criminality, is the thing that we have all in common. Thank you.